Good evening and welcome to FPL The Onion, the FPL show named after the worst pun known to managers. Honestly, I'd be surprised if anybody actually gets that pun. I am Nick Hughes, and I would like to introduce you to my co-host Ash, or as I have been calling him for the past 20 something years, Shlee. We maybe at some point, if we ever get big, Shlee, they'll ask us why you're called Shlee or how long we've known each other, everything else. But I'm not going to go into that now because we've spent the last 2 hours messing about with OBS and streaming software and everything else. So I think we just crack on because it's getting pretty late already. So yeah, we've set up this channel. We know that we're going to be talking to ourselves for probably the next 3 to 4 years, but actually the fact that Shlee and I can even carve out an hour or so a week just to have a chat. We're both fathers of very young children, and life can be quite busy and quite challenging. And yeah, the fact that we've basically bought some equipment and told our wives that this is what we're going to be doing, and they seem relatively supportive at the moment. So we're just gonna crack on and go for it. And we've been playing FPL. I will actually talk in a moment. But we've been playing FPL for a very long time. I think I've been playing it since 2006, something like that. I seem to remember having Cristiano Ronaldo in his kind of 40, 42 or 30 goal season, and him absolutely blowing through everybody. So I've been playing it for a very long time. How long have you been playing it for, Shlee?
I just checked actually. Hello, everybody. 2007-8 is the first one.
Uh,
What is your first one? Because I thought the same person got us both into it, but maybe you went a bit first. No, you are 0607. So you had
so I'm
one
going to try.
season ahead of me.
I'm going to try the first transition, and it's already not working. Can you? Let me see if I can see this on OBS. Yeah, perfect. That's working. Um, so if I go in here, and I'll just go to my team history and just make sure that this works as well. You'll have to bear with us. Anyone who comes back to watch this, if we carry this channel on. Um, yeah, my first season was 0607, and a pretty pathetic rank at that. There's my rank history. Um, yeah, I've had some pretty terrible seasons. I've been taking it a bit more seriously in the last few seasons and paying more attention to it and treating it as more of a science. Um, I'll bring up Schlee's in a moment. It's much more respectable than mine. Schlee's always told me that I shouldn't be taking as many hits as I take. I used to be a manager who would take an enormous amount of hits in a season. Schlee would always laugh at me about how many hits I was taking. I just felt like most of them were paying off, but obviously they weren't. But yeah, let me think of some. If we went through my entire history, we'd be here all night. But some notable seasons. I think 15, 16. I think that was the season where there was that enormous double game week where Alexis Sanchez. I triple captained him when he got 25 points. That was a pretty sweet day. I remember being out for a run and listening to that on my headphones. And yeah, I did pretty well a couple of seasons ago. I think during the first Project Restart, I remember doing pretty well and winning a few cash leagues then, so that was good fun. Shlee, maybe I'll pull your as you can see, there's kind of a lot of bad puns going on here with my team name. Let's go and find Shlee's history. Shlee, if you have this up on your screen as well, so you can actually.
Yeah, I've got it actually. Yeah. So, yeah, I wish I had continued the trend of my first 6 seasons all being top 10k, because since then I've
It's
only had
unbelievable.
one. But back then it was a different game, probably half a million, a million players. So top 10k isn't what it is now.
No, but that is
But then
still that is still an unbelievable that is still an unbelievable history on that.
it did seem a lot simpler in those days. But yeah, thanks. But then the last three have been 62k, 105k, and 98k. And yeah, the last two have been my worst. So I need to try and get that trade going upwards.
Any not to delve too deep too quickly, actually, but do you think is there any kind of reason why you haven't kept up? Because those early ranks are like, I mean, I know there are the likes of Fabio Borge and Mark and everybody have 3-figure ranks, 2-figure ranks, etc. But that's an incredible record for the first kind of 8 to 9 seasons of playing it.
Yeah, I don't think I am very good at taking too many risks. I think I play a bit too safe. And maybe I've got a few golden rules that I tend to maybe be a bit too concrete with and don't deviate from enough. I'm not saying at the beginning I was that risky. I don't know, maybe I was without realising. Certainly, yeah, with all the tools and stuff we've got, maybe I am a bit, go with the herd and scared of doing something a bit different. For example, those couple of weeks ago when Ronaldo, I thought I need Ronaldo, I'm scared of not having him. Fernandes would have been easy from Salah. That would have also not been a -4. And look what happened there. Obviously, there was some luck with what happened with Fernandes, but
I know. I mean, the thing is,
things.
if we could probably talk for kind of 3-4 hours on this, because actually we haven't made time to speak about FPL that much recently. But even with that Fernandes thing, the hindsight merchants, or the kind of hindsight of that decision, because running into that game week, Ronaldo was looking like he was going to play. With Ronaldo in the team, Fernandes hasn't really done anything all season, and so obviously as soon as you thought Ronaldo was out, and I'd captained Ronaldo that week. And obviously, as soon as he was out, you thought actually that is going to really, really change the position of Bruno in the team, etc., etc. But yeah, that was obviously a massive, massive swing. But I do think there was a huge amount of luck involved in that. I think there's a huge amount of luck involved with all of it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you are a conservative manager, but again, that doesn't mean that you can't still have those amazing ranks. But maybe it is just purely your life has changed, become a lot busier in that time, and you haven't been able to kind of watch as much football as you used to. And maybe it is because when you look at these ranks, actually maybe as a percentage of the overall player base, and I don't believe for a second there are 8 million players. I think there's probably more like 3 or 4, because there are so many of those bot teams. Every week when you look at like the highest point score, and it's just a team that's triple captain James Ward-Prowse or something like that. And I don't believe there are 8 million players, but let's say there are 3 or 4 million active players, or even at the start of the season, your ranks maybe still are a similar percentage to that overall player base.
As well, I got maybe quite early on some of the tools. I remember Googling one day, I can't remember what I Googled, fantasy football message board or something, and thought, oh, what's this fantasy football scout website? This is amazing. And then you're on the message boards there ahead of half the game maybe. So I think I got on that early, and that massively helped, and that probably taught me things like, calm down on the hits. What the hell is a ticker? This is amazing. This gets me ahead. So I think now the crowd has caught up quite a bit. But yeah, it does take a lot of time, and I haven't been able to focus so much time. We're both pretty busy people, and although I'd say FPL was probably my main hobby, which is pretty sad. It doesn't mean you're good at it.
Oh, I can't remember. Maybe we had that conversation a few years ago, and I probably smiled when you said it was your main hobby, if we did have that conversation. But it's definitely one of my main hobbies now, along with chess and going out on a bike ride and stuff like that. But yeah, as you get older, your hobbies change. But I do spend too much time thinking about my fantasy football team now. But I mean, I guess just before we kind of get into more of this sort of stuff, just the plans generally for the pod or for the YouTube channel. Again, we realize how challenging it's going to be to actually get any kind of following these days. There are some incredible pods out there that still have relatively small followings when you compare them to kind of Andy's Let's Talk FPL following. But yeah, I mean, we're just going to kind of try and do this once a week. We may, if we enjoy it, if we love it, if I love the sound of my own voice, I might end up doing a few kind of solo ones. Shlee can absolutely do the same. But the plan is just to kind of bring you this kind of content for Shlee and I to have these chats and actually hopefully improve our respective ranks by doing so, and just thinking about things that the other isn't necessarily thinking about, or talking about those things. I don't have as much time to watch football as I used to when I was younger, and but I do take in, when I'm commuting or when I'm out exercising, whatever else, I will listen to Planet FPL, the FPL Wire, Black Box, etc. And so we're kind of taking in all of that information, and then when it comes time to make those decisions, you've thought about things, or they've given you things to think about that you weren't necessarily thinking about. For example, I listened to the first kind of 10 minutes of the FPL Wire this morning, and Late Riser mentioned that that I shouldn't be getting excited about Conor Gallagher for a double game week because he actually is on loan from Chelsea, which I hadn't even thought about. So um, yeah, we kind of absorb a lot of that content, and we'll be sharing our thoughts on that sort of stuff. We won't be just kind of parroting what they say. We may have some of our own original thoughts at some points as well, but hopefully it's something that some people will find interesting and useful, and eventually, we might have some people who might want to ask us questions, or, we will be hopefully getting some guests on at some point. Some of them might be our mates who've been playing fantasy football for a while, but I happen to know through some Slack channels, etc., that I'm members of some really, really good managers that would be great to get on here and have a chat to and ask them about, their experience, and whether that be their history in FPL or this season or things they've learned, etc., etc. But hopefully it's something that some people will find useful. Even if we had 50 people listening to something, that would be cool. So yeah, Shalea, have you got any kind of hopes for the pod or for the channel?
I think the minimum is, if we can keep it going, is it's just going to be a good way of us to catch up every week, isn't it? And that hopefully should, because it'll be quite focused on our own teams, which I think is quite difficult sometimes. You're listening to some of the content, you almost know some other people's teams better than yours. But if we are going to focus even for 20 minutes on each other's teams, and we can see something, that might be pretty powerful and change things for the better. So I think, well, people will see soon that you're having a very good season. So if it starts going downhill, don't blame me too much. But
no, we're very much
like,
the minimum. I think there's a lot of similarities, I think, between what's happening to us at the moment as to what's happening with Az and Mark on Black Box. It's whenever they're laughing about it, it does remind me of Ashley, the fact that you've obviously got this unbelievable record, and Mark's record is insane. When he was chatting to when Az was chatting to Oscar about Mark's record again, it's just, you forget, because Mark's such a down to earth guy, such a lovely guy, and he never kind of talks that up. But his record is absolutely ridiculous, as is yours. And yeah, I happen to be having a really good season, as Az is as well. So yeah, actually, Az is one of those people I'm hoping to try and beat this season, but we'll see how that goes.
Just to dampen the adjective there you used, I don't know what Mark or Fabio's Hall of Fame score is, but I think I'm 1,500, no, maybe 3,000, sorry, and I think you're 7,000th. So what? I don't know if you can say Hall of Fame rank is you're the 7,000th best manager ever, but I think Fabio and Mark are in the top 100, so I'm definitely not in Mark's league.
No, but I'm quite surprised. I'm not surprised that your rank's that high at all. I remember a few years ago you saying your rank was was your rank in the top 1,000 or something at one point, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm surprised that mine's 7,000.
But yeah, something like that, I think.
It just shows the numbers game, though, doesn't it? Because I've never actually had a rank below 7,000, so it just shows that obviously staying in the game as long as people do.
Yeah, I think it goes back to 2012 as well. So you think how many people have got that? That doesn't add a massive weight, but it helps. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool, isn't it? To think
no,
top 10k overall.
That is cool.
Yeah, as you say, what it turns into, we're not sure. But yeah, we're going to have to try and find a slot in our busy lives when we can fit it in, and we'll see how it goes. But given the last couple of hours have been a bit stressful, but also quite exciting, it could go one of either ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the things I was going to say, is that, please, if you do find us, please bear with us while we upgrade our tech and get more familiar with it and figure out how to actually make things look prettier than they do right now. I mean, if we go back to the opening screen of kind of the onion there, which is just absolutely
I can't
horrendous.
see that, by the way.
No, I know.
Tech thing, and I'm pretty sure my videos flicker, which is probably annoying some people. So sorry about that. But yeah, great. If the onion's still there, I'm so proud.
No, indeed. But yeah, as I say, kind of bear with us while we're figuring all of this stuff out, and we will improve it. I'm already looking at kind of upgrading microphones and things like that, and we should find a way for Shlee to actually be able to see what the slides are as is going, because I think everybody who we watch seems to have that ability. So we'll figure that out as well. So yeah, I mean, Shlee, do you want to just talk a little bit about your approach to FPL generally? I mean, you've talked about kind of being conservative, but in terms of like the podcasts you listen to, how much football you watch, etc., and just kind of give people an indication as to how you go about making your decisions.
Yeah, sure. So I probably haven't watched a 90 minutes of football on TV for maybe a year. So I definitely, I don't have a Sky or BT subscription or anything. Amazon a little bit, but I don't know. I tend to get maybe a bit bored of watching 90 minutes of football, which is a bit sad. So I tend to be more highlights man, not even match of the day, but Sky Sports YouTube 3-minute blasts of the game's quite good. And I think conservative manager, but I think there are some golden rules that I think, one of which is that I can't remember where the stats table is from, that silly things like midfielders score more points than anybody else. You can easily forget that. And that's another reason why I'm annoyed that a few weeks ago not going Fernandez, because that kind of writing was on the wall. So I think I've got some sort of golden rules like that I sometimes don't practice too much.
Have you got them written down anywhere?
Well, yeah, I'm just looking up here actually. Yeah, on one of the things we'll come to a bit later, I've got some sort of golden rules. Normally do captain pretty high EO players, but I think as well, one thing I need to think about a bit more is that early in the season you maybe do that, but as the season progresses, you should take more risks and you should go for those lower EO players. At the beginning, it's all about getting the high, selected by people in, but then you should differentiate more towards the late season. Live FPL is really powerful.
The late riser approach.
Yeah. But I think early season that's pretty risky, as he said, it can go wrong with his non-Salah captain game week 1.
Yeah,
pretty brutal. But yeah, live FPL and stuff, I do look at top 10k ownership because you have to have a little bit of cover sometimes, but that's obviously not the be all and end all. And I think I've maybe been pretty poor, although I'm not sure who's taken the most hits of us both, but I do think I'm maybe quite weak sometimes on capitalizing on blanks, and that's when maybe you should take hits and it would pay off more. So I think I've been a bit better in the last few blanks and rearranged stuff, but maybe early on I wasn't so great. Like sometimes I've had pretty weak defenders and mids, fifth mid or fourth defender coming off the bench. So and of recent cases I bought Diop when it's pretty clear that Zuma was going to come back soon. I should have just gone for a better West Ham defender.
It looks like you've taken seven hits this season.
Right. How many have you taken?
Whereas I think I'm on.
Which one's that? That's you. You've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've taken 7 as well.
Yeah. So I start. This was so incredibly rare for me. I'm just sharing this my record of this season, but to have not taken any hits or to have taken kind of one hit the first 16 game weeks was unprecedented for me. I would at any point in previous seasons I would have taken at least 16 hits, maybe a lot more than that. But yeah, it used to be like one hit a week, whereas it was going very, very, very well for me. I mean, by game week 16, by having only taken one hit, I was 881st, which was pretty insane. And then had a kind of a fairly big red arrow in 17. And I think because I took an 8-point hit that week.
Well, 1.3 million game week rank. That wasn't too bad. The game week 20 was.
No, it wasn't horrendous. It wasn't horrendous. It's funny because there's another guy in a Slack channel that I'm in who's very, very low ranked as well. And it's funny because a bad game week is, you're there saying like your rank has doubled and yet you're still kind of in the top, 3,000 or whatever. So, yeah, it's strange because down at those levels, obviously if you were 100k and you lost 3k rank, you'd be like, okay, well I basically stayed still, but the kind of changes at that level feel much bigger with smaller numbers. But yeah, very, very strange for me to have taken that few number of hits this season.
Just quickly for you then, what do you summarise your good season to? Because I'm just looking at that mad rank you had in the game week 10, the Gallagher brace against City. I couldn't believe he'd still kept.
But again, it was just huge luck. But the other big thing was I think I brought Reece James in that game week. It's annoying because when you click on the transfers, you'd love to just get the transfers for that particular week.
To James.
But yeah, I remember where I was. It's one of those things you kind of remember where you are when these things happen. But I just remember exactly where I was when I saw those James goals going in. But Gallagher, that would have been enough for an amazing game week on its own. but I benched Gallagher for Mbuemo, and then was super lucky that Mbuemo didn't play. I can't remember who Mbuemo had that week. Uh, Game week 16.
He had
He had what?
Burnley
He had what?
away.
He had. Didn't he have Watford? Mbuemo.
That is game week 10 when Gallagher got a
No.
brace.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, game week 10. Sorry. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
yeah, he had Burnley away. So I was picking Mbuemo over Gallagher away at City, and then obviously when I saw that Gallagher had scored and Mbuemo wasn't in the team, I was just like, this is unreal. I think it was the Sunday that Mbuemo was didn't play. So
It's
yeah, it
the
was just
only game in the first 19 game weeks that Mbuemo didn't play. So yeah,
exactly. So that and
you
those
know,
and those are the kind
these
of
things
things.
happen.
But those are the kind of things that are just enormous. But even a massive thing for me was bringing Sarr, the Wolves keeper, in on wildcard in game week 4, and my average goalkeeper points I think was like 5.5 points for those from like game week 4 to 16. Like he got an assist in one game, which is just insane. So I have been incredibly lucky, but I do think that a massive change was not taking hits. It was just a massive change for the way that I approach it, and it just meant that and you can see even in the kind of the recent hits that I've taken, they start to become. It gets easier to take hits the more you take. 'Cause you think, oh, I took a -4 last week, so what's a -4 this week? But I'm really going to try and just to the end of the season, just to really minimise the hits, because I have just noticed massively that you'll take a hit and the players that you took out will do fine. Again, when you
But
don't
even
necessarily
with
expect them
that,
to.
but I think I had someone say the other day that there's going to be one possible normal week for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I
So
think I
surely
think Ben
hits are going
Ben
to
Crellin.
come off.
I think Ben Crellin has said that, hasn't he? He said that there's going to be one. He thinks there'll be one game week until the end of the season that
One
isn't a double.
non-blank and one non-double.
Yeah,
So
but this
there's going to
this
be
is
some big swings.
this was one of the things that I wanted to talk about though, because I my season started to kind of take a bit of a turn for the worse when I brought in Everton players for their double game week. So I'm just showing on screen now. Actually, you won't be able to see this, but I brought in Gray and Calvert-Lewin. That was kind of I made 4 transfers in game week 21 from -8, and I brought in Gray, Calvert-Lewin, and Johnson. I can't remember who the fourth transfer was that week. I'd go and check, but yeah, it just didn't pay off. And they had double game weeks. Johnson obviously didn't. He suddenly dropped out of the team, even though Moyes had said that he would keep his place even when Cresswell was back. They cancelled obviously the Everton second game week. So I think one of my plans, and who knows whether it'll work out for the rest of the season, but one of my plans is to just not be completely blinded by double game weeks, and to we can talk about this when we talk about our teams, but I chose to bring in Laporte on wildcard instead of Luca Dean, and obviously Luca Dean is going to have double game weeks, but I just saw Laporte's next 4 fixtures and just thought he's going to get massive scores in those fixtures, and I got very lucky again in my first game owning Laporte, and obviously on the Saturday I was gutted that I didn't own Dean, or maybe it was the Friday night, the Villa game, can't remember, but yeah, I'm just going to be very careful and a bit. Yes, that Everton double game week, Everton West Ham double game week it was a case of kind of once bitten twice shy, and I could be wrong, and again there'll be a lot of luck and variance involved, but I just think that I'm not going to keep breaking my team apart to get double game weekers in, because you could take a 4-point hit, 8-point hit to get double game weekers in, and they fail. So
I think it's a lot about the weak teams as well, isn't it? An Everton double maybe was a bit like the Watford one this week. Was always a bit of a poison chalice.
yeah, indeed. Right. Well, we probably need to get going. So just trying to think if there's anything else.
Cheers. Have you actually had a swig of beer yet? I
I've
think
had
that needs to be done.
several. I've had
Have you?
several swigs
Sorry.
of beer. I've almost finished the beer. I probably would like to go and get another one, but
Good.
so yeah, I think we've kind of barreled through that intro. There's loads of stuff that we could still go into around all of that. I'm sure that if we keep doing this, we will get to most of it. But yeah, the plan is kind of to build over time some regular features to this that we always cover, so that you guys can see there's some consistency to it and you know what you're looking for, and we'll add features over time, etc., and hopefully get some guests on, which would be interesting. Um, we wanted to talk about kind of our season so far, which I think we've done in a kind of sporadic way. We can maybe get into that a bit more later, but yeah, I think if we look first at kind of my team for game week 24, which should be on screen now. So I've kind of stopped the rot a little bit with my ranking, that I think I dropped down from, I think I was 580th, 590th when Salah missed that penalty against Leicester. You might hear me say that a few times if you tune in for a few of these, because that was pretty painful. I'd kept Salah when the Liverpool fixture was cancelled in the previous week by free hitting, and the free hit went really well. And then I thought, I've got Salah for Leicester when Leicester's defence was decimated. Leicester were playing playing terribly. I think that's one of the only clean sheets Leicester have kept all season, and they kept it at Liverpool. And so, yeah, when he missed that penalty, I mean, I think if he'd scored that penalty, I could have been in the top 100, because you'd think he goes on to get another return or two in that game. And I'd captained him that week, and I think he was only at like 70% ownership or something like that. Whereas obviously every week for the previous however many weeks, he was well over 100% owned. But yeah, that was pretty disastrous to my rank. And in the next couple of weeks, I fell down to like nearly 10k, which again, I know it's all relative. And I hear people on pods talking about, they're up into 100k, 60k, and again, it's so relative to where you are and what's going on. But when you've been in the top 1k, dropping to nearly 10k is pretty painful. But yeah, I actually wildcarded last week, which again, I think it may turn out to be a mistake, because we've gotten a lot more information now about the double game weeks in 25, 26. There are talk of double game weeks in 27. There's obviously I also used a free hit as I said in order to keep Salah, which did go very, very well. But I only have one free hit left, and it's obviously, do you use it in 28? Do you use it in 30? Is it 28 when Liverpool and Arsenal blank, or is it 27? I forget. 27. So it's the choice is kind of, I still think I'm leaning towards using it in 30 in the FA Cup, because I think I'm going to have 3 Liverpool and 2 Arsenal in 27. So it might just be that I play that game week with less players, because I don't really want to get rid of any of them. The super annoying thing is that Robertson would be the obvious transfer out in 27, because Liverpool have a difficult run after that. But Chelsea also blank in 27 at the moment. I'd absolutely would have loved to have just gone straight to a Chelsea defender from Robertson. That would have been perfect, but it's just not going to work out for me. So the wild card went really, really, really well. I was really lucky. I got players that other teams didn't really have. De Bruyne, obviously, because a lot of people had a pretty disastrous game week 23, and obviously with the Watford players, and not many people had De Bruyne. Nobody really had Robertson, and again, a kind of big hats off to kind of the guys at the FPL wire, because I'd made my decision to wildcard, and I thought Villa actually were going to get a double game week as well, and they didn't in the end. But I hadn't even considered Robertson. I listened to the FPL wire, and they were talking about the fact that I had noticed that he was getting more assists, but I just hadn't thought about swapping Jota out for him on a wildcard. I definitely would have just sleepwalked into retaining Jota, but Robertson, when he came through with those assists, it was pretty great. So it might be a mistake to have used the wild card and not have that, and to be able to set everything up perfectly. Obviously, I've got Gallagher. He hasn't got the double game week in 26 when I thought he had. Lowton, obviously, I'm absolutely devastated that Lowton just suddenly dropped out of the team, because if I didn't expect him to get the clean sheet at Arsenal, or expect Burnley to get the clean sheet at Arsenal, but when they did, and obviously to have got the clean sheet tonight, which I think was probably more likely, that would have been an absolutely monster score for him. As it is, I think I get Gallagher's one point off the bench in my wildcard team. But yeah, with everybody else doing pretty poorly that week, it's again been really, really good for me. So I'll get Foster in I've got Foster in the team, and obviously he played tonight and kept the clean sheet, which is good. So he's kind of matched. I'm guessing he didn't get a yellow card, did he, Ashley?
No, 2 saves as well, I think, so it's just 6. But okay. Yeah, I mean, tonight you're getting 6 plus 2 for João Pedro, and only 1 for King. You're game week rent's going to be pretty decent tonight compared to where it was.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I've
Updated you.
no, so I feel like I've kind of stopped the rot with the wild card and actually
So
it
is that
could
a
have
big
been
reason
long.
for playing it? I mean, were you worried like, yeah, your rank was almost doubling every week, and yeah, from a ridiculously low number, so that's kind of easy to do. But
Yeah.
no, if you were flatlining greyish arrows, would you not have done it? Was it partly to I'm in an amazing position, I need to consolidate this?
No, well, I mean, again, part of my approach this season has just been to try and take all the emotion out of it. So I'm trying to make kind of good decisions kind of moment to moment. And the thing for me on the wild card was I had Cancelo. I don't think I had any other City, but to bring in Laporte and De Bruyne for those next 3, 4 games that they've got, I just think they're going to get massive points in that. I think De Bruyne was taken off early in the FA Cup, so I expect him to start the Brentford game. So I just think, and Robertson as well. I mean, I think a lot of people have got Jota. Jota's one of these people where his stats are just always absolutely insane. And I've owned Jota for a lot of this season as well, but just Robertson on the form that he's in now, I'm really really pleased to have him. And the other reason for wildcarding when I did was to make sure that I had a really really easy route to get Salah back for whenever it looked like he was coming back in. Obviously, with the pain of that Leicester game, I really wanted Salah back for the Leicester game in 24, but I'm not sure that he is actually going to start that game just because of how far they went in AFCON. But yeah, it was a few things. It was making sure I had 3 City and kind of the best 3 City that I wanted, making sure that I had Villa because I think Villa are just going to continue to be resurgent under Gerrard. I was going to go for Luca Digne. I'd love to say that I considered getting Luca Digne instead of a cheap defender in Luton, but it was either Laporte or Digne, and I just went for Laporte because I just think City's defence is so strong. Obviously, when Digne did what he did against Everton, I was pretty gutted. I thought Duncan Ferguson would kind of get them right up for that, and obviously Digne hasn't shown himself to be the kind of strongest mentally. So I just wondered whether if Everton had their backs up, he'd be kind of kept quiet in that game. Obviously, it turned out that he hauled big time, but then Laporte, did very well to kind of catch that back up for me. I was messaging you, wasn't I, actually saying because you'd obviously seen that I'd wildcarded, but I was pretty gutted that I didn't go for Digne. But yeah, I couldn't have gone for a back five of Trent, Cancelo, Laporte, Robertson, and Digne because every week, I mean, you look at my midfield as well. Every weekend I've just been having a nightmare of trying to actually select teams. So yeah, it was just to try and get more Villa, more City. I wanted Gallagher back because obviously he's been so good for me. Maybe that was a bit of an emotional decision that may not pay off, but yeah, I just think he's an absolutely class player. Maybe we get to talking about kind of how we select players at some point, but I think the fact that you and I actually don't watch as much football as a lot of FPL managers will, I actually think helps us out. And I think one of the things again that's really really helped me this season is that I've just been really careful not to fall into I know the word's used a lot, but not to fall into traps because I owned Werner in game week 1 of last season. I thought he was going to be amazing, but hadn't actually watched him play that much. And people who come from the Bundesliga, you've got Sancho again this season as another example. They just don't do it. So even with Coutinho coming back, I could have got Coutinho on wildcard, but he's not the same player that he was when he left the league, and he's had a lot of kind of bad experiences since then. If he turns out to be great, I can bring him in. Yeah, I'll have missed out on some points, but I'm really trying to just pick players who I trust and think, and really believe are going to do really well, have got an amazing pedigree. There's nothing going on in their personal lives, etc., etc. Gallagher's probably the one, because even with Reece James, I wanted to bring Reece James in from the first game week, but there was obviously all that talk ahead of game week 1 that he wasn't going to start because he'd been away with England, etc. But Reece James, I looked into him and people were like, oh, he's a rotation risk with Aspilicueta, but I looked at the game. I looked at I think the semi-finals, the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and the final of the Champions League. And Reece James played the full minutes in all of them, so he was clearly Tuchel's kind of first choice right back. Clearly an unbelievable player. So I've just been trying to pick players like that and keep them in the team. And Gallagher, I just think from the moment that from the football I have seen, I saw his 2 goals I think it was in game week 4. the Cruyff turn in the box where he looked like he had all the time in the world. He's obviously he is obviously a talent and not just a flash in the pan. But that's been my approach this season, is just to try and go with really, really consistent players. So I don't regret the wild card at all. I am looking at now and thinking, obviously, a bit gutted about Lowton. Would obviously have gone for some different players, but it has done really, really well for me. And I think, as you say, Ashley, I think tonight with King blanking and getting the yellow card and stuff, it'll be even better by the time it's all counted up.
It's your third best game week rank of the season. So yeah, you can't say anything, but it was really good. Yeah, if game week 36 is massive, bench boost and people, you fall right down and get a 7 million rank, it might be a mistake, but it's so far away, I don't think you can say it was a problem. But I was really surprised when you pulled it, but it was a massive swing, so I think it's been amazing.
But that's also the other thing, right? Because that's the kind of thing I'm missing out on. I mean, one of the things I was looking at was maybe bench boosting in 25 or 26, and obviously not triple captaining Salah in 26 and just bench boosting, but obviously Gallagher not playing 2 games, and maybe Lowton not even being in the team. That I think I might just keep the bench boost, and I think if game week 36 is going to be as big as people think it's going to be, the chances are you'll have kind of 10, 11 doublers anyway, and you might have kind of some decent bench fodder. The issue obviously is that you'd like to be able to take some money out of the bench for the rest of the season, but at the end of the day, again, with the cancellations that we've seen, we might not see kind of the same level of cancellations, but we might see the odd player missing out because they test positive for COVID. Having had COVID this past week myself, and it just kind of coming out of nowhere for us. I mean, we still need a strong bench, and so obviously João Pedro and Lowton are pretty cheap. Martinelli, for what he's doing, is pretty cheap. Ramsey's pretty cheap.
Yeah, your bench is pretty cheap. I think it's structured really well.
Yeah. So
Martinelli, I'm pretty jealous of that. That Arsenal double was pretty nice. They might have another one in 28, is it? Or maybe 27 drops in as a non-blank. So it should look good. It's a wildcard team, but yeah, it's very good.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Right, it should look really good, and that's the nice thing is for the next kind of 4 to 5 game weeks. I don't feel like I need to make. This is the thing. Other than getting Salah back, I don't feel like I need to make that many transfers. But you shouldn't when you've just pulled your wild card if you've done it well. But I was just super lucky that obviously the Watford double ended up being a damp squib this week, and people had captained Dennis, etc. And I kind of just thought I'll go with the slightly cheaper option in João Pedro. He hasn't done anything either, but he's cheaper and he's going to be bench fodder now. So I got super lucky. Dennis could have absolutely smashed it, and it would have been a totally different story. But my hope is the person in my the Slack channel who's kind of a similar rank to me. I think he'd actually captain King, so it would be interesting to see if I've jumped above him. I don't know. It's very, very close. Even 4 points is worth kind of 1,000 places at that level, which again is that thing about hits, is that you just don't realise when you're taking so many hits, but even just 4 points can be the difference, even in the top 5k of 1,000 places. But yeah, it's I'm glad that I pulled it, and my hope is, I was going to say his hope is still to finish in the top 10k. My hope is to finish in the top 1k, because again, you've seen that if you have some of these swings and then you keep level with everybody else, you can kind of hold your rank for a few weeks. So in game week 36, I don't think I'm going to be getting a 7 million rank that week, as in, the fact that I've played the wildcard now, I might be behind people who are getting the 100k, 200k ranks because they've got 15 double game weekers in a bench boost, but I might have a 3 million rank if it goes okay, and that might be enough to kind of hold position. So it's kind of, there's a lot of luck involved, but if you make the right, if you kind of go against the crowd at the right time, and I think just having even De Bruyne, I mean, he could have got so many more points in that Southampton game, but so I, in a way, was a little bit unlucky with that. But actually, when loads of other people were captaining Dennis, De Bruyne getting 8 points was massive. So,
what is your? Might be skipping ahead, but what's your transfer plan this week? Or are you rolling?
So my transfer plan, in fact, I can show this. So if I just show this quickly. So this is obviously huge shout out to Ragabolly, who I think is an absolute genius and just one of the nicest people in the world as well. I mean, the fact that he puts this site out for free, and I messaged him on Twitter actually and just said he's like Tim Berners. He's the Tim Berners-Lee of FPL to give this away for free. I listened to an interview with him, and he's just such a nice guy. But to be able to build this when he's not even a developer, he's obviously just ridiculously smart, is incredible. But yeah, my transfer plans, I'm telling people now in my cash leagues who if they actually watch this, I won't be sharing the link with them. My plan is actually to get Tierney in 26 just because he's class. If he stays injury free, which he's done for the last few weeks, he's scoring so well. They've got the double in 26, and obviously they blank again, but in 27. But this is the plan. So at the moment, it's kind of Martinelli out for Rafinha because Rafinha has a fixture swing at that point. I haven't actually owned Rafinha all season, even though when the prices came out ahead of game week 1, I was like he was in every single draft until the last draft. In the end, I don't think I've been that punished by him. He never seems to get a double figure haul, but
don't think he has even still this season. And
no,
he's had some lucky penalties.
no, and he is
Oh,
class, and I think he's really missed them having that focal point. Obviously, Leeds a struggle, but I do think if they can get some players back, I mean, he's head and shoulders above everything else in that squad, and they've got some good fixtures at that point. I would be really reticent though to lose Martinelli at this point, but I just think that might be the way through. Obviously, this isn't set in stone, but that might be the way through having only 9 players for game week 27. I don't think I can afford to free hit in 27. I think it's going to have to be 30. But yeah, obviously you can see that there's the potential for the Ronaldo to Lukaku, just because it looks really easy. I don't think I need to make this Sarr transfer at that point, but again, a bit like with Gallagher, because Sarr was so good for me, I feel like I want to get him back when Man United's fixtures turn. And I do think he's a class goalkeeper. I think the reason why they've been massively outperforming their XGC is just because he's class. I do think he's good. So yeah, that's the plan. It's more transfers than I'd want to make this soon after a wildcard. But I mean, the reason was to try and get Salah back. Obviously, with the double game week and with De Bruyne's fixtures turning, it was for me when I wildcarded, it was either De Bruyne who would go or Ronaldo who would go to enable it. And again, it could have been even at game week 24 point that I would have made the switch from Ronaldo if United still seemed like a bit of a basket case, which they have for the rest of most of this season. But yeah, United's fixtures just seem too good for me to get rid of Ronaldo yet, and he still was one of the best players ever. So hopefully he can still deliver in these games. But that's the plan. Any thoughts on that, actually?
Can't see that. I was trying to follow roughly when you were doing stuff, so I'll take it. It sounds like, well, maybe as you've wildcarded, maybe you do need quite long-term plans. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm thinking pretty week to week here, just because so much stuff is still changing, and with 30 still not confirmed. I thought you were saying that you might be quite low on 27, so I wondered if you were secretly hoping lots of 30 fixtures drop and you would do it in 27, because you're going to have maybe triple Liverpool and Tierney. So you can be quite
I know.
low,
I mean,
aren't you?
I don't have to bring in Tierney. I mean, that's one of the fascinating things about this season is that obviously Tierney. I just love. I like that double because I think Wolves Arsenal could easily be a 0-0. But I do like that double. But obviously then there is the blank, and so it's just weighing up the double game week against losing, not having a player in the following week. So I could just keep Laporte. I can't remember who City have got in 27, but I think it might be Everton away. So again, that could be absolutely fine. So it's again, these are the kind of decisions that have to weigh up. But yeah, I don't know, and that's why I think obviously if I can do Martinelli out to Rafinha, then maybe I can kind of claw one of those back. I do like Tierney, but I need to look at it. I mean, obviously Laporte's then got United in 28, and as Andy always says, who's a United fan, that United might not be the fixture they were previously, but they still may well score against City in 28. So we'll have to see. They probably won't, to be honest, with what's going on at the club. But so maybe I would just be better keeping hold of Laporte. Then it's one less transfer as well. So there we go. Maybe we can talk about that one in a couple of weeks' time, Shall I bring up your team for your game week 24 preview? guessing you've got that.
Yeah, I can see it. I am pretty uncertain about what to do, to be honest. I don't like my team at all. I mean, I've got two expensive keepers. Well, I've got Ramsdale pretty early, so he was only 4.5, but that is a pretty premium set of keepers. And the fact you've wild card and they've got cheaper than that is a bit worrying because
Yeah, but the lovely thing about this, I'm actually quite jealous of this now because United have got the double in
they do
25,
rotate really well.
and then
True.
Arsenal have the double in 26, don't they?
Yeah, true. And then United have got Watford when Arsenal blank, so they do rotate well. But I
Yeah,
really
it's
need
amazing.
money. Like I'd love to be able to get Fernandez in, and I can't. That's the FOMO for next week. I'm not sure I want to captain Ronaldo next week because he burned me so badly. He's missed that penalty last night. Yeah, Friday night.
Yeah,
Would have scored in the
which means
shootout. Is he really going to be back on?
he might not be on the pens.
So I'm a bit worried about that. So, but for me to get Fernandez in next week, I would have to lose one of the 7 million plus forwards or mids. So I'd have to get rid of either Ronaldo, which seems ridiculous, Foden, which seems ridiculous, Jota. I mean, you're saying that his stats are good this season. They are good this season, but they're not great in the last few weeks. I think he's been shifted out a bit more left when Firmino's
No,
been playing. So
and
I have toiled with
Firmino's
removing him.
back now. Again, who knows for how long? But Firmino's back, and obviously they've signed Diaz as well. So yeah,
Yeah, and they've
Jota's one
got
of those.
Salah and Mane coming back. It could be Burnley away might be okay to ship him. Have no Liverpool next week. Have Fernandez instead, and then jump to Salah. But that's a -4 again, so it's not great. And this week I have to make a transfer because if you'll notice, I am either playing Livramento at the back or I'm going to have two defenders probably because I don't think Diop's going to come in if Zuma's playing. So I massively regret doing that a while back
Yeah,
for money reasons. So I definitely need to get a defender this week, either Laporte, Robertson, or Digne
but
for
didn't
Alonso probably.
Livramento didn't he do okay in the FA Cup?
I think he's back, but Spurs away.
Is it just that he's back? Yeah.
I don't actually know if he played today. They're through in the cup, aren't they? I think. So then, yeah, I've got it written down, which is pretty difficult to describe. But I think I've got two options. Either I get any defender this week, I roll next week, and then I do something like in 26, Gray and Ronaldo to Edouard and Salah.
Yeah.
Or I get
Who was it who was talking about Edouard? I think it was on the wire, wasn't it? I can't remember who. Is it Baker on the wire was saying that he's looking at Edouard?
yeah, yeah. They've got quite a big swing of. Yeah, I think it was actually because I posted a comment and got slated by a couple of people. They've got a really high swing of XG
Posted a
home
comment
and
on
away,
where? Posted a comment on where?
just on YouTube. Just on the
What?
YouTube,
And you got
on the YouTube
slated?
video.
What for saying you were going
Not
to get
slated.
Edouard?
No. I indicated that Crystal Palace's XG swing home and away is only bettered, if you like, in the league by Liverpool. So Liverpool's home XG is enormous, but their away isn't actually that massive compared to their home. Palace
Right.
is the next. So basically, Palace are amazing at home, but they're not great away. And someone said, well, actually, that's because Palace's away fixtures recently haven't been great, but I don't know, they've not been too bad. So you've got to be a bit careful. Palace's home fixtures are actually quite tricky. Their away ones on paper are good, but their away form's not great. So
Right.
I don't know if Edouard's that great of an option, but then we're really lacking in striker options, aren't we? So yeah,
God.
I have actually got written down here Edouard / question mark. Could be anyone.
Well,
So yeah, Graham Ronaldo 26
I brought Watkins
to
in a
Salah
wild
and
card,
Edouard.
and already I'm like, is he actually going to do anything? The
Mm.
striking options this season have been absolutely horrendous. So yeah, I mean, again, if I was picking again, the fact that Gallagher doesn't actually have the double in 26. I mean, yeah, Edouard probably would have been my preference. But that's the other thing about going early on the wild card is I didn't actually have all of the or as much of the double game week information. So it is what it is. But yeah, I like the idea of getting Edouard in here. But I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe Jota. Who did you say you could downgrade Jota to? Oh, you'd go Jota to Fernandez.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this might be a bit hard to follow, but which of these two options do you think? Option one is a 4.9 mil defender this week for Alonso. Next week for a hit, Jota and Gray to Fernandez and Ramsey, -4, but probably then I captain Fernandez, and then Fernandez to Salah 26. or
Yeah.
any defender this week, roll next week, and then Gray and Ronaldo to Salah and Edouard in 26.
Yeah, I am not as good at remembering this stuff as people like James on Planet FPL.
Yeah.
But I do like the plan of going Jota to Fernandez and then Fernandez to Salah because again, because of the double game week, I know I said, it's kind of they could fail. And again, if Ronaldo plays in the double game week and Fernandez does what he's done for the rest of the season, he could do nothing. And then, all those people who said, well, it was super obvious to go for Fernandez in the last double, it is just variance. But I do, it could be Jota might not even play against Burnley because there's so much risk now about his place. I mean, Firmino could play that game. I think it is likely that he will play just because again, Mane and Salah are going to take time to get back in, but they are going to play Diaz in. They're going to bring him in one of the games. He's going to need time to bed in, and for Klopp to bring him in, to train him up to play in the system and everything else. But yeah, Jota might drop out for those games. So this is the issue, isn't it? Right? You could take that -4 to do those transfers, and Jota could end up getting a goal and assist at Burnley. You just have no idea on this stuff. So
let me put it another way. Rank what do you think are the best 3 defenders to bring in? Rank them 1, 2, 3 for Alonso.
4.9.
Not necessarily 4.9. Any price, because I could get Robertson. Say that would.
Any
price. I would say Robertson, Digne, Laporte, but the order is quite tricky. I think Laporte's got a bit of rotation risk. Robertson could have rotation risk. They've got a crazy schedule. Tsimikas could come in. Digne is nailed.
Tsimikas has been great. Yeah. Yeah, Digne's nailed, and Villa are going to have, but Villa are going to have doubles though, aren't they? They're going to. I think they might double in 27 or 28, but they are going to have doubles. So
true.
Whereas with
rearrange.
Whereas with Laporte, I can't remember what Villa's games are to rearrange.
No, I can't remember either. I think if Rafinha is injured, then maybe I should go Digne because I'm also worried. If I get Digne now, he's facing Rafinha if he's fit. That isn't a great fixture this week. I do want Digne long term, but maybe it's not a great week to get him. Last week obviously would have been better.
That's the interesting thing though about those matchups, isn't it? Because he's facing Digne, but do you consider it when those players have matchups that he's more likely to get booked because Rafinha's going to be going past him, or do you just think it's just Leeds against Villa defence?
Yeah, it's true. My brain just sees more chance of a goal, but yeah, you're right. The matchup is more like a yellow card or something. And maybe Digne's not going to get forward as much as well.
Yeah, because
maybe it's also just bringing 2 players in that same attack versus defence. That's not a great combo.
So how? Just explain to me again, because obviously I haven't seen it written down. But how does going Alonso to any defender mean that you can still do what you want in midfield?
Well, it doesn't. It means I would be Fernandes-less.
Right. But it's just Alonso because he's not playing, and you're and you're strengthening your defence because otherwise it's Livramento playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I could just get a sub 4.9 this week, and I've still got both options open. Maybe I would end up doing that, to be honest.
I would do that, and I think it's a bit too early, and this is what I was thinking on wildcard. But I love that Wolves defence. The only thing that puts me off, because Aït-Nouri's now he seems to be taking loads of free kicks. He's getting forward. He's obviously got that wicked left foot on him. But I did see a post saying that Johnny's now back in training. Now again, after such a long layoff, he's probably going to be out for a bit longer, and it's going to take him a lot of time to get back. But Wolves fixtures don't turn amazing until game week 28.
Yeah, they're not great.
No, they're not great.
But they've shown mad. I know. Goals for is really low. Their goals against is okay, but they're not scoring. You're just hoping for 0-0s and 1-0s, and yeah, Ads loves the 1-0 prediction for Wolves. It might be okay, but they're not great fixtures, are they? But it's very cheap.
I tell you what we should do. We're looking at your team, obviously, but I think we'll try and fix it for next week, where you can actually see what we're looking at, and we can both be looking at the same things. But if we bring up your ticker, and I'll just let you wax lyrical on this because it is pretty cool.
Okay, well, it's definitely not as good as the net that whole podcast is pretty cool. And what does Chris call it? Power tables or something. This is basically a combination of I post it on Twitter every week, most weeks when I have time to do it. It's a combination of XG for and against for every team, but home and away, and their home and away form. So, for example, Liverpool, their home XG4 is the highest in the league. Their conceded XG is the lowest, and they've got the best form at home. They've in their last 3 games they've won them all. So their home games will almost automatically be blue because they're insanely good at home.
So this is
away,
so the order of this is always this ticker is always in the order, obviously alphabetical order of the teams, but the thing to look for is the colouring of the fixture.
Yeah, the colouring of the fixture, exactly. Yeah.
And you can't sort this because obviously it's not like the FF Scout ticker where you can suddenly sort it and jump them, but you're just kind of looking for the blue to see who's got good fixtures coming up.
A few people have said actually it would be good to have it colour coordinated by the best fixtures. I could do that, but I don't know which one you got on the screen, but that next 6 column towards the end, hopefully, where Tottenham are the best with 1 and Chelsea the worst with 20th, you could look at that as well and see if you wanted to pick out the best. Tottenham got the best fixtures according to this over the next 6. Chelsea got the worst.
Right. So the next
that one, sorry.
Yeah, it might have been cropped out on it, but obviously we can share it again next week. But yeah, so how do you add the weightings to it in terms of how do you discern what is the most important thing in terms of whether it's XG or XGC or?
I don't. That's just it's equal. Form and XG is the same weighting, but those are only 2 things going into it. But it is home and away separated as well. So
nice.
Liverpool's, as I say, home form XG and XGC is amazing, but their away form isn't great, and their XG and XGC isn't that great either. So, teams playing Liverpool away might have a fighting chance. So, you see that, Liverpool's away fixtures, Burnley is actually quite red and Burnley facing Liverpool in game week 25 is quite blue, suggesting Burnley have got a bit of a fighting chance because Liverpool aren't great away.
Right.
So that's the idea.
It's also looking at. Is it also looking at Burnley at home as well? When it's looking at that.
Yeah. So this is the attacking ticker. So this is looking at Burnley's attacking XG at home against Liverpool's XGC away.
So you have another one of these for the defensive as well.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Okay. Well, we should share both of them, I think, next time we chat.
Yeah.
Would be cool.
But it's quite good for. I maybe overuse it, and maybe this comes on to a bit how we bring players in. I think I maybe take this a bit too gospel when I'm bringing players in. What I think it is quite good for is when you've got a benching headache of who to play and not play, because I think this is quite good for maybe separating little things like that you're not able to see in terms of front of mind.
Yeah. Well, and also because your brain, it's like you were saying. I think you were saying in relation to this that like Norwich, Norwich could jump to the top of the fixture ticker, but you're still they're still Norwich, and that's kind of the, obviously exactly. they've had some good results recently, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you hear that sort of thing where maybe Watford with all on the trap, they've got a double game week, but this might cut through that a little bit and just sanity check that but they're still Watford, they're not going to have amazing XG, and their form's quite poor. And there's also a bit of a weighting on it as well. If a new manager's come in, I give them a bit of a manager bounce by increasing their form artificially a little bit for the first few games. So
nice. So you did that with Everton with Duncan Ferguson coming in.
Yeah, so still got that for Villa, for Gerrard, still for Newcastle, Tottenham, and Watford.
Nice. Yeah, I think Newcastle. Idea. I've got a feeling that Newcastle are now they're going to improve massively after the transfer window. It's not a very, very obvious thing to say, but I just think they've really, the feeling around the club will have changed massively, and even the players who are there who aren't fantastic will have they'll have upped their game because the players coming in, and obviously they're at the end of the season there's going to be lots of decisions made. So I just think it's funny because I'm saying that I haven't considered bringing in a Newcastle player at all, but again it's just kind of seeing how they get on and seeing how they improve.
St Maximan's interesting because he's a striker. He's pretty cheap. He might be an option, but that's the only one I've got on my eye on, I think.
No, it's a good.
I remember as well. Another little thing I think about in terms of choosing a team or sometimes transfer sort of distribution is that I think it's quite risky to take hits after a long break. So this one, I mean, crazy break, 2.5 weeks. I sometimes think a lot of people say, an international break is a really good time to hold 2 free transfers, but sometimes I think the opposite, because everyone's form has reset. It's really difficult, I think, to predict what's going to happen, and everyone's been off for a week or two. So
you mean
actually
people say
quite like to roll.
people say hold them to use them in that international break? You mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people would think roll last week to use 2 now. I sometimes would think the opposite. You would roll now and then use 2 next week or the week after. When you've got fixtures bunched together, I think it's a lot easier to predict form.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even that was some reticence for me, is even playing the wild card when I did. I mean, I didn't actually expect this. Obviously, I knew looking at it when the next game week was, but it's just been such a painful. I don't actually remember as painful a break as this. I mean, obviously, it was made slightly easy by the fact that I had a rank jump because of my wild card, but just like for the majority of people, where they, captain Dennis and then had to sit through the last 2.5 weeks of this, just looking at their team, it's been terrible. So I'm looking forward to it all kicking off again. But yeah, no, this is very, very cool, this ticker. So we should definitely keep an eye on this and keep checking it. It's funny you should say about St. Maximan, because he is still going to be kind of one of their crowd favourites and maybe still a form, a talisman. And just the forward options this season, like Antonio started incredibly well. That's another reason I think for my good start was I had Antonio. But my formation at the start of the season, I think, was either 5-4-1 or 4-5-1. But I just didn't like any of the forwards. And then I played the wild card in game week 4 just to get Ronaldo in, which kind of was a bit of a double-edged sword. It went well in some games and not in others. But the forward options have just been horrendous. And I do think that with the way that teams, the formation of teams and the way that teams attack, etc., they're gonna have to revisit that conversation about making some midfielders forwards, because otherwise it's gonna, or even to allow you to to change formations or play with no forwards, because there's just a complete dearth of forward options this season. So
Interesting that I just checked. You played 5-4-1 or 4-5-1 for the first 3 weeks. Maybe there was some auto subs going on there, but
yeah, I mean,
certainly got on the fact that you had week 4 to be in play. In game week 3, you had Antonio captain and then Parika and Davis on the bench at 12.5
I
and
know. I mean,
4.3
this is I mean, that was one of the reasons for wildcarding, was obviously that I needed to strengthen the bench, and I couldn't have Parika and Davis. There was just no bench there at all. They weren't even playing. And obviously Ronaldo and Lukaku came into the league, and I went Ronaldo over Lukaku. But which again, when Lukaku scored those goals against Villa, which I think was the same game week where Ronaldo played Newcastle in game week 4. Again, I was like, it's a bit of a toss of the coin, or I was a bit gutted that I hadn't gone for both of them. But Lukaku hasn't done anything since then. I think Ronaldo has had a couple of double-figure hauls since then, like Tottenham, and I can't remember the other one, but was it Arsenal, which again was another amazing game week for me. But it's just the forward options have just been horrendous. But yeah, that was the reason for wildcarding. Another reason for wildcarding was just getting Ronaldo in. So I've kind of wildcarded to get Salah back now, and wildcarded then to get Ronaldo or Lukaku in. But yeah, in any other season, I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest change from me and my approach, has just been taking less hits. So I'm gonna try and carry that on. But yeah, as you've said, with the double game weeks, it's going to be so tempting to take hits to, let's get this player in for the double game week. But I'm going to be so skeptical of players' double game weeks. They're going to need to look amazing. And again, there's probably going to be a lot of rotation. I mean, we haven't talked about this yet, about kind of chip plans, but there's going to be a lot of people triple captaining Salah in game week 26. I'd rather bench boost, I think, but again, I think my bench boost has been massively weakened by Lowton and Gallagher. But Salah might not play one of those games in game week 26, because I think they've got Inter in the Champions League like 3 days later after one of the games. He might not play. Are you going to definitely bring him in and triple captain him that week? Or, I mean, his ownership is going to probably be over 200% that week.
Yeah, I think it'll be 250. I think late Rover was saying 260, 270, and he was talking about not overthinking it. I think at the moment that is my thinking, to triple captain him, not overthink it. It is risky. I think it depends when he comes back. I think if he comes straight back against Leicester and seems that, Klopp just sees him as a fitness machine and that's it, AFCON, 120 minutes, just carry on.
Yeah.
But like you say, that Leeds game, that's high energy stuff Klopp has said before. They're going to copying what Lady Riser said here, but it's important that the Leeds fixture is one of the worst teams you could play in that week, 4 games before the cup final. They're going to want to rest players. That's why I think maybe Simicast comes in. And
yeah, because isn't it cup final and then it's cup final and then it's the Champions League against Inter?
Not sure what comes after it, but yeah, it's Norwich, Leeds, then cup final.
Yeah, I mean,
as in you think he'd save 2 strong teams for the cup final and Inter.
Yeah,
and the one before could again, be rotation sitting.
And Liverpool's squad is good enough to rotate, but it's just whether AFCON and then 120 minutes and whatever happens in the final, whether that is enough. Because Salah's one of the fittest players in the league, and he's in his prime, and he's played. But this is the thing: everything is a double-edged sword because he's already played an enormous number of minutes this season. He's hardly been rested this season. They're obviously chasing City in the league. At some point, maybe they'll have to give that up if they keep dropping points. But I don't think it's a risk.
Quite annoying.
It's not a risk to triple
the
captain.
Next fixture. I don't think so. And if Burnley was the fixture this week, I'd be a bit more content not owning Salah because I think it'll be pretty clear from that. And then Leicester next. The fact is Leicester then Burnley. The best case for me, I think, as a non-Salah owner until probably 26 is that he's nowhere to be seen for Leicester. He's on the bench against Burnley. I think Klopp sometimes does rotate the forwards against Burnley because
I think he'll play. I think he'll play against. I think he'll be rested. I think he'll be benched against Leicester and come on for the last 20, depending on what's going on in the game. Because again, he will, after missing that penalty against Leicester, Liverpool will want to smash Leicester in that game. And Salah in particular will want to. So, but I just think that because they've gotten to the final, and he's obviously got, they're playing. He's playing Cameroon, playing Mane in the final. I just think he's going to play the full final, win or lose, whatever. But I don't think that Klopp can start him against Leicester. I think that's too big a risk. But then that means is he going to start Mane? I mean, is he going to go without both of them again when they will really, really want to beat Leicester? So I don't know. But I was going to say I don't think it's a risk to triple captain Salah in 26, and I may just do that anyway because of my rank. So just to hold my rank, because even if he doesn't play one of the games and whatever, but it is one of those things where I just look at it and think if I bench boost, if I still look at my team and there's maybe a couple of other transfers I can make to strengthen the bench boost, because I have got Foster, he's doubling in 26. And I would be bench boosting De Gea effectively if I was going to be playing Foster. I have tried to do that thing of making sure that I'm very self-critical about what my actual bench boost is, and I think it's like Cancelo at Tottenham. I think it's then Watkins and I think it's the Villa players. I can't remember who they're playing. It'll be on your ticker, won't it? 26. Yeah, Watford at home. So that's kind of, it's basically a single game week bench boost, but it's Villa against Watford, it's Cancelo against Tottenham, and it's a De Gea. It's De Gea against who have United got in 26? Leeds.
Yeah, Leeds away.
So it is a pretty good bench boost. But then, and the thing is, when people are saying you must triple captain Salah, I mean, I'd still captain Salah because that would be a way of protecting rank. Because obviously, if he gets 25 points, that's going to really hurt. But if he gets 11 or 12, I'm only 12 points behind the triple captain, and I've bench boosted. And I know it's not the bench boost versus the triple captain, but then it means I can take some money out of my bench over the rest of the season. Although again, my bench isn't that expensive, but that's what I'm weighing up at the moment is whether I'm definitely going to bring him back for 26, and I'm almost certainly going to bring him back for KDB unless KDB goes bananas in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm going to bring Salah in. It's just whether I triple captain him in that week, because I do think there's a risk that he misses one of those games, and he could only play 30 minutes. Imagine if everyone triple captains and he only plays 30 minutes, and someone else is, you triple captain him later, because I think Ben Crellin thinks Liverpool are going to have another double game week later, apparently. So
I've not heard that.
Yeah,
Arsenal could be a triple captain option there. Can't remember if it was Baker again, but made a good point that they're out of all competitions now. It's just the Premier League, and they've got this rest period. So that Brentford at home, Wolves at home could be pretty tasty.
Yeah,
it's just a shame that if you're thinking not Salah, then therefore does that make another Liverpool option stronger? No, I don't think you go Mane, Jota, or Firmino. It's too risky still.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're just not. They're not Salah, are they? I mean, he's just. Although I do remember a couple of years ago. I mean, Salah and Mane. There was a time where they were kind of interchangeable. I think I triple captain Mane in a big double game week a couple of years ago, and actually Salah ended up getting the haul, and I think Mane got 2 points or something. But the triple captain it doesn't seem to go well for me very often. I had that Alexis Sanchez one, 6 years ago, but other than that, it does not go well for me.
I tend to be all right with it, so maybe I'm less fearful going into that one. I just think it's one of those, if he explodes,
Exactly.
you'd be so annoyed looking back at it. I mean, I don't know if you've got the ticker up, but they're bright blue for me. They're pretty bright blue on everything.
Yeah.
Okay, they're 3-4 days apart, but they're chasing City, like you say. If he gets a rest after AFCON, that's hopefully his rest. 60
and
minutes
also
each, he could do damage.
You can turn it on his head and say he starts both games and only plays 60 minutes, but in those 60 minutes he tears them apart.
Yeah.
But again, that's my thing. Is I wouldn't be without Salah against triple captainers, because that would literally be suicide. I mean, I could probably drop to 20k if that went badly. I would captain him, but it's just you'd miss out on one set of his points.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I'm weighing up. I do think though, although I wanted to play the bench boost quite soon after the wildcard, I think there will be other opportunities to play it. And it may still be single game weekers again, but because my team is relatively strong, it's relatively cheap as well. So yeah, I'm not in a massive rush to play the double game week, to play the triple.
And what are your transfers for the next 2 weeks? Sorry, can you remember it from the previous one slide? Was it rolling, and then it's Martinelli to. Sorry, you think of getting Martinelli out, was it?
Let me bring it up again. I don't want to get rid of Martinelli. I really don't. But again, if he doesn't do anything, I know they've got a couple of blanks, but if he doesn't do anything for the next few weeks, then it'll be an easy sell to Rafinha to make sure that I've got
Rafinha. I know he's got the double, but his fixtures aren't that great. I mean, I've got him, and I'm going to hold him because he's a bit of a differential. I think James was saying he's going to struggle to get him in, but he's got this fitness issue. Villa away, tough. Everton away, new manager bounce. Maybe then Man U and Liverpool.
But I wouldn't.
Big games, I think.
But this is the thing, you see. So I wouldn't be getting Rafinha in until 27. So because of my plan is Martinelli to Rafinha in 27, because Arsenal blank in 27.
Okay.
So I'll be
Tottenham at home.
No, I know, and this is the thing, you see. It's quite painful if we jump back to it. It's quite unfortunate for me. There'll be a lot of people in the same boat, but with that blank in 27 for Leeds, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal at the moment, I'd love to be able to jump on a Chelsea defender for Robertson, but Chelsea blank that week as well, because Chelsea's fixtures go incredible in 28. I'd love to be able to go, if Rafinha didn't have the Tottenham game, instead had the Leicester game, because Leeds fixtures do turn really nice in 28 as well. The only thing I'm eating is it's that weighing up of a player not playing, and again, when you've got no bench, when you've got 5 players not playing, so you've got no, even if one of your 9 don't turn up, you're suddenly down another. It gets pretty sketchy at that point. So even just getting Rafinha in for Tottenham at home, I don't expect him to do anything against Tottenham at home, but at least it's a guarantee. I say guaranteed. At least it's probably 2 points at least.
Yeah.
And then I've got him for that amazing fixture run. I don't want to get rid of Martinelli because they've got Watford in 28. They've still got really good fixtures, Arsenal, and they may have doubles there as well. So that's the one thing where I feel like I've painted myself into a corner a little bit with the wild card is 27 versus 30, because I've already used the first free hit. So that's the place where I'm like trading it off. But as Andy said in his video, you hold off wildcarding. There's all these people talking about wildcarding ahead of, so they can set up the bench boost in 36. How many points do you miss out on holding on to the wildcard for that long? Whereas I mean, originally when I looked at the Chelsea fixture swing, the Wolves fixture swing, Leeds as well, I did think 28 looked really, really good for a wildcard, but I think I got a bit too excited about those City fixtures. But there's still a couple of them to go, and I still expect them to smash a couple of teams. And if it carries on going like that, if I am inside the top 1k or if I'm inside the top 2k, you can start to play a bit more defensively in some of these situations. So just to try and hold that rank. I'd love to say that I'm going to try and fly up into the top 100 or whatever. I just don't see it after drop that I had when Salah missed that penalty, which I'll probably reference a lot. So yeah,
Who would you captain from my team this week? Jota, Foden, Trent, or Cancelo? I think those are the main options in my team.
I think Foden came off in the FA Cup as well, but slightly after the likes of KDB. I think Cancelo came off as well, but probably it's so interesting, isn't it? Because Jota, after all that we've said about him, I don't expect Salah and Mane to be back for that game, and so I do expect Jota to start. They are going to want to smash Leicester after what happened last time. He is going to be the main man or one of them. But yeah, for me it would be. I just don't think I'd captain Cancelo. I mean, I benched Cancelo. I can't remember which game it was, but I benched Cancelo for a game over the Christmas period where I think it was because I had a doubler, and I can't remember. It might have been the Everton. It might have been the West Ham Everton double where Johnson didn't even play. I can't remember why I didn't get. Oh no, Johnson did play. Johnson played the first 45 minutes and got a yellow card and got subbed off, and that's why I didn't get Cancelo off the bench. But I just wouldn't captain Cancelo because yes, he can haul, but more often than not, he's just going to get. He's and against Brentford, I mean, they obviously did really well against Liverpool earlier in the season. They could score against City. They're not likely to, but they could. I just think you're much better off picking between Jota and Foden, and I would probably go for Jota. I think.
Just looking at the this is an interesting one on captaincy. Do you ever look at surveys on who's the most popular captain on Scout or Twitter and stuff?
Not really. I try and stay clear of it. And actually, one of the amazing things about this Slack channel, I should plug it. Actually, it's Andy's Let's Talk FPL Slack channel that you get from being a Patreon, and it's been amazing for me. Actually, it's brilliant because when I don't have time to be watching the football, you can check in on there, and there's just people watching the games all the time. They're saying who's looking good, who's looking bad. They're the fact that they're one of Andy's Patreons means that they're very invested in it anyway. They're obviously paying money to be that, and there are some fantastic managers in that group, and just the fact that they update. There's always somebody messaging in there. I think it's kind of about 300 people in there, and but there's a lot of the same people who are kind of messaging all the time. But they will post really, a lot of people in there will post useful stuff that they see from Twitter and everything else. But I won't go through Twitter and check and see who's kind of doing well in the captain polls. And you were talking about FF Scout. I didn't ever message much on FF Scout, but there was a time when I was a member of FF Scout and I would kind of go in and use the stats. But again, I felt like it in a way for me, it didn't really work because I think I was kind of looking too deeply into stats that actually then didn't. I would make a decision based on, how many corners a team was getting in a game and how, what the XGC on corners was for the team they were playing or something like that. And it just wasn't really, the granularity of that wasn't really paying off for me, even on kind of those 50-50 decisions. But I do find this Slack channel is perfect for me because you're getting it through a filter of, good, involved, engaged FPL managers who are kind of almost as obsessive as I, who some of them are going to be more obsessive than I am about it. And they're actually watching more football than I am as well. So yeah, I just kind of pick up.
Have you joined only this season?
No, I joined Andy's Patreon a few years ago because I was watching so many of his videos and I really liked the guy and I kind of wanted to support him. So I actually just wanted to sign up for Patreon just to give him a bit of cash for what I was watching because obviously I was getting it all on YouTube and I was essentially getting it for free. I mean, I do pay for YouTube, but so I did that, and I didn't join his Slack channel for probably about 18 months after I started doing it, and then I thought actually I should do that, and then again, yeah, it's a really good community on there. So
I just wondered if it was this season, that could be a reason why there's been a big swing from you around last season, but
maybe. Well, I have
as well.
No, I have been. Yeah, I didn't do very well last season, and I can't really remember exactly why that was. I actually became quite disillusioned with football last season just because of the lack of crowds, and I was trying to watch the games but they just didn't have the same feel to them, and I wasn't even as interested in FPL content last season for some reason, maybe because I wasn't doing as well, and I couldn't seem to kind of swing it around. But Yeah, it was actually quite painful being in that Slack channel last season because out of that many people, there are always going to be people who are doing really, really well. And like me this season, complaining when their rank drops from in the top 1,000 to the top 8,000, you're still looking at it thinking, well, he's still in the top 8,000. Um, but no, I've been quite involved with that Slack channel for like the last 3 seasons. So I had a good season in Project Restart, a bad season last season, and I'm having a good season again this season. So it's definitely helped me. And as you say, there are lots of questions asked in there, and people saying, look, you can't take a -4 for that, etc., etc. Whereas in the past, I'd have been like, nah, I'll definitely do the -4 because he could get 28 points this week. So
You'd be interested to know. Actually, I think the captain's going to be quite close this week in terms of. I don't think De Bruyne's EO will be that high. I mean, he's top on the scout survey at the moment with 30%, but he's not massively owned in the top 10k. So I remember, I think there's late risers saying he's absolutely hands down the best one. I probably would agree. And then next closest is Bowen, then Salah, and I mean, I've got to choose between probably Jota and Foden. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th and 9th on the ticker at 3 and 2% each.
yeah,
I think it is between those, but it's tough. I'll have to have a look at. Yeah,
but it's one of those though,
there's
isn't it?
something
Because
about.
it's one of those where if one of those kicks off, I mean, then
Yeah, true.
yes they're
But
low on the captain poll, but it means then that they'd be low effective ownership, and you'd fly up the ranks, wouldn't you? So
yeah, no, absolutely. But that is not the way I normally play, and I
no.
do. I don't know. A lot of it is FOMO, which is not good. But I don't like going into a game week knowing it's a 2 or 3%. I mean, I can't really get De Bruyne, or I mean, I've got Bowen, but I'm not sure. West Ham at Watford.
That
West
is the
Ham
other
do.
that is the other thing. I mean, you're obviously asking between Jota and Foden. You've got the captain and the vice on them, but I'm vice captaining Bowen. I don't own Jota or Foden, obviously, but I still think. I mean, Bowen scored. I mean, he played 120 minutes, but he scored again in the FA Cup. He's absolutely fit as a fiddle. I mean, I saw Bowen a few years ago. I'm not going to claim that I found Bowen, but I brought him into my team probably 3 or 4 seasons ago because he looked amazing. I probably watched I don't know West Ham play United or somebody and just thought, but this guy looks incredible. And I brought him in, and he'd done fairly well, and then he just dropped off because I think he was just that bit too young, and he just wasn't quite ready for it. He didn't quite have the fitness. He was never getting he was never getting 90 minutes, but he really looks the real deal now. And Watford, yes, they've got a new manager, but it is Roy Hodgson. So it's one of those things where you just think if you're in that dressing room and Roy Hodgson comes in and he's saying, right, we're gonna keep you up. It's just like, do you really believe it? West Ham could absolutely smash. I mean, West Ham haven't been playing that well, but Bowen has. Bowen could absolutely smash Watford.
True. Yeah. Okay. It's a tricky one. I haven't actually looked at how far down differential wise they are in the captaincy, so I need to think about that one. I think that's a
No,
tricky one.
I was gonna ask you what do you know what where Bowen sits in the captaincy polls?
Yeah, he's second. Yeah.
Oh, he
De
is
Bruyne
second.
30%, Bowen 16%, Salah 15.
Well, then that's quite a nice decision to kind of go against, Bowen, for West Ham when you've got Jota for Liverpool or Foden for City, who are kind of the two best teams in the league, and they're much lower ownership. But the difference is Bowen is now the talisman for West Ham, whereas, I mean, Jota could arguably be the talisman for Liverpool against Leicester because who else is going to do it at the moment?
To have Antonio as well to cover a bit of West Ham if they did go off. I think the two
Exactly.
fixtures, yeah, I think the City and the Liverpool fixtures are better, but I think maybe I'd need Klopp or Pep to say something clear about Foden and Jota because they are rotation risks a bit. Yeah, pretty envious of you and De Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean that was the other reason for wildcarding was that I just thought there aren't that many opportunities to get on, and he was still quite difficult to get to, but there aren't that many opportunities to get on somebody like De Bruyne and Captain, and just as he seemed to be kind of coming back into fitness and form, so pretty excited about that. Cool. So I think we've generally been through everything that we wanted to talk about. I think again, I mean we're at an hour and 23 now, so we could call it a day there. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to specifically talk through or.
I'm looking at the time, 22:58. You know what I said about 11. I am pretty pooped, but yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we will hopefully see each other next week and try and be a bit more slick. But yeah, I think it's been pretty fun.
No, it's been awesome, mate. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm absolutely keen to do as many of these as we can possibly do and be consistent. And we'll have to figure out the day of the week because I know that I listen to Planet FPL on a Monday when they're, normal game weeks, Planet FPL on a Monday when they're reviewing the game weeks. And I'm kind of just, especially after a good game week, I'm just really wanting to listen to some content then. So maybe that's the time to try and get it out, on a Monday. But the issue is that they're then talking about things that, if you do listen to them later in the week, if you don't manage to catch it on the Monday, there's things that have happened in that week, or the double game weeks announced, or players have got injured, or whatever it might be, and they're always on the button about it. They're saying this could happen, this may happen, but by the time you listen to it, or by the time the deadline comes around, it has already happened. But yeah, we'll have to figure out the best day to get the content out. But yes, this has been very, very fun. I dread to think how many people are now doing fantasy football podcasts and YouTube streams and stuff. But maybe if we do this for the next 5 years, we'll have 100 viewers, or somebody to actually ask us a question, or somebody for us to send some mugs to when they win our mini leagues or something. But
yeah, I thought you were going to say 100,000, but yeah, I don't think even Andy's got that. But yeah, 100. Let's go with that.
No, Andy's got 250,000 subscribers now.
Bloody hell, okay.
He is flying, but he deserves it. He's a lovely chap. And I know I've spoken to you about this, but when you go back and look at his first ever stream, it's very, very different. But he didn't even have anybody's streams to look at and say, well, this is what I want it to be like, I guess. But yeah, amazing. Cool. Anyway, this has been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I am going to probably drink another beer in celebration of the fact that we did it. Thanks so much, Lee.
Cool. I'm off to bed. Bye.
All right, mate. All the best. Bye-bye.